The thought of softening feels terrifying. It feels so scary to us because we think that softening is going to mean giving up. We think that it means letting others win over us, or you know what I mean, letting our abusers get get away with things. It means softening our boundaries, but that's not what I'm talking about when I talk about softening. What we're really softening into is your deeper self. It's not so much a softening for the sake of others, it's actually softening into you, softening into that core essence within you. Because as long as you have this hard exterior, as long as you're guarded against the world, you're not in alignment at all. Well, I shouldn't say at all, right? It's just you're blocking your blessings. You're blocking your blessings without realizing it. You're keeping yourself small in many, many ways because it doesn't feel safe to expand. It doesn't feel safe to be seen. And of course, there's practical things that we do to stay safe as we're expanding, right? And it's not to say that you're not going to be taking those practical steps. It's more so to say, how am I allowing the universe to kind of be the air, the lift in my wings? And how can I allow my natural energy to be this inner fuel that takes me higher, where I get ideas, I feel inspired, I'm able to see things that no one else can see. I think we get so oh, what's the word, it's almost like we think everything is like there's this equation going on where every little thing that we receive we have to work for. And actually you already have this essence within you that is magnetizing ideas, concepts, thoughts, actions. You already are this creative essence. And once we get out of this mindset of I actually need to work hard for every little thing, um then the whole being in such a state of coherence with your deeper self that you are receptive to all that is. You're receptive to yourself. You're receptive to your own intuition. You're receptive to love. You're receptive to opportunities and blessings. But that comes from softening. And it's not about being boundaryless. It's not about being, I love it, like putting on the facade of spirituality. That's not what it is, because this part of you is so powerful and potent. It has natural boundaries. It doesn't just let anything in, and it doesn't let anything slide. It is protective of you. You are as precious and as worthy of the love that this part of you also exudes to others. Like you are engulfed in that love. You are encapsulated in that love. And so when we soften into it, we're not softening into a place where we ourselves are soft and we're not we have leaky boundaries and we just let people walk and walk all over us. It's not the kind of softening I'm talking about. It's actually allowing. I had a cup of tea this morning and it said compassion. Compassion is the giving of self to others. And when I first read it, I was like, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right. And then I sat with it and I said, well, which self? Which self? Giving of self. And I said, well, if it's the giving of the deeper self, yeah, that actually does sound right. Because when you are actually tuned into your soul's essence, the deeper self is what I call it. When you're allowing that self to express through you, to speak through you, to be in a state of love, to be coherent with love, to be coherent with well-being, right? You're just exuding this energy that other people just naturally want to be around, but you yourself feel so good and so pleasurable. It's a bliss state, it's a pleasure state. That giving of that self, it's not just nourishing to others, it's also nourishing to you. And when I think of compassion, I actually do think it is allowing yourself to rest in I want to give you the space and the tools to feel safe enough to soften, to actually feel like, regardless of whatever's going on, I can soften into that essence that is me. Because you're not going to feel that, just naturally, because through the natural ongoing of our life, we experience trauma, we experience wounding, we experience loss, we experience abandonment, right? We all have our own personal wounds that prevent us from softening and allowing our nervous system to soften. But what I help with is creating the ecosystem, the inner state of safety, so that softening, oh, it feels good. It feels natural. And it has nothing to do with what's happening outside of us. It doesn't have anything to do with what's happening in the rest of the world. And that can sound so it feels antithetical to what compassion is. We think that in order to be compassionate, we have to be in the suffering with others, and we have to be in the suffering, and that's not quite it. Because think about it. If you have nothing, you too are suffering, and you are miserable. What do you have to give another miserable person? And I know you have people like this in your life. Misery loves company because it's looking for someone to share that burden with. But how are you the most uplifting? Not when you are at that state, but when you are actually being the soul essence that you are, being love that you are. Then you can actually be of service, right? And so when we talk about allowing ourselves to feel safe from within, it's not to negate and say all these unsafe things aren't happening in the world. It's not to say, it's not sticking our head in the sand and being like, oh, all this stuff isn't happening and other people aren't suffering and other people aren't experiencing lack of safety. It's actually saying, in order to shift this, in order to be a contribution to myself and to others, I actually need to master my own nervous system and learn how to create that safety from within. Because as long as I'm waiting for the outside world to be safe, there's always going to be something out there that feels scary and threatening. And we cannot keep ourselves in this agitated, tense state where it's depleting our inner resources, right? If you're experiencing magnesium deficiency, right, you're having gut issues, all of that comes from this feeling your body does not feel safe. It's like clenching inside, it's in fear, and we can't hold this for long. A wonderful the polyvagal theory, it's done by Peter Levine. He recognized that animals themselves in nature, they don't hold this tensing for long. Once they escape their predator, they're like, oh, they let it process through their body and they're off. Right? Because if they don't, they die. And when we talk about chronic illness and that clenching, right? When we talk about the things that we're experiencing, there's even new studies now where it's your actual state of mind, your emotional state, all this stuff. Actually, it tells your body how to store the calories. It tells your body how to store the nutrients and what to hold on to, because you're communicating with this clenching. You're communicating to your body, we're in a state of distress, we're in danger, and so we need to do certain processes. And if we do that for long, we actually deplete other nutrients in our body, and we actually don't allow our organs to be in that juicy state where they're healing, right? They're actually being regenerative, and we can have natural healing. We don't have to have so many products. We don't have to, go out and try to purchase well-being. That well-being actually starts to radiate from within. Honing in on that practice of, can I allow this essence that is me, that is love, to breathe with me? Can I see through its eyes? And it's when we're softening into that aspect of our nature that we can actually be of true service to others, to our work, to wherever we are planted. And so that's really the spirit of soften and replenish. Is I want to give you tools to cultivate somatic safety from within and allow your nervous system to finally be like, okay. And I don't know if you're like me, if you came from hello Mel 22, if you came from a dysfunctional family, it's like that used to be my dream. I was a pretty religious teenager and young adult going into college, and all I like my biggest prayer was simply to be able to have that sigh of like in my nervous system and allow myself to just be. And that's kind of sad. It's kind of sad, but also real. You could spend your whole life never really taking a breath that isn't followed up with that, ugh, that stench. Like you remember the stressors, and right, that reflex comes back on. And you actually don't, when you learn that you actually don't need to be in a completely perfect environment. Things don't need to be perfect. No, like all the stressors don't need to be taken care of. All the bills don't need to be paid. All the this does, everything doesn't have to be perfect before you allow yourself to have that breath. Before you allow yourself to have that softening. And actually, as you soften, the universe responds in kind, and things start to be delivered to you. The blessings start to come in. And this is like it's like you kind of wish it wasn't so, because I think those of us who struggle, who have suffered a lot and have been through a lot, we try even harder. And it's like it's so frustrating that it's actually when we soften that things start to flow naturally, right? And we start to become a match for those who are in alignment with love, for the opportunities that are right for us. But the very trauma that you went through, it feels cruel. It feels cruel that it's the very trauma that you went through that is like keeping this hardness, right? And so I've tried to make this offering as affordable as I can. It's You can join for as low as $99. It's by donation. Donation slash, you just like the price. There's no pricing below $99, but you can choose how much you'd like to contribute. And we're starting tomorrow. It's 4 weeks. If you're really struggling with hypervigilance, if you're struggling with so hypervigilance, a state of anxiety, that tension, that tensing, that clenching, that the fight or flight response, that's hyper arousal when it comes to the stress responses, right? So what we're basically going to be doing is installing that sense of safety. And when we would do that, when we cultivate that, your body will naturally climb up the autonomic ladder. And so the autonomic ladder goes like this. We have the state of, rest and digest, also called social engagement. I like to point to a state even above this where we're actually in coherence. We're in coherence with our deeper self. But we have this state of rest and digest, social engagement, which comes from the polyvagal theory, which means that you feel open, you feel ready to connect, you feel safe to connect to others, right? You feel safe to express, you feel safe to feel seen. You're incorporated into community, and your body feels safe where it's like digesting, and all the organs, all the systems are working, everything's online, and nothing's been put on pause because it's like, oh, we're in danger and we got to get away. So that's like peak state. Below the ladder, below that, so let's say we are having a stress response. Below that is fight or flight. This is hyper arousal. This is the mobilized state where we're trying to get away. We're like, whether it's I gotta fight this this opponent, or I have to run away. We're getting ready. Our system is getting ready to mobilize, and so the body's having specific responses to support that mobilization to fight off this threat. That might work with I don't even know if it's gonna work with a bear, but if we are in the wild and we're threatened, it's like, well, it's go time, but it's not going to work with credit card debt. It's not going to work. It's not going to work with our child that's having trouble in school, right? That fight or flight, that's not the correct response. We actually need to actually solve those human problems, modern human problems. We need to be in that optimized state where our actual developed prefrontal cortex, like the most developed parts of our brain, are actually online. So we got to get back up to here. But when we're in the mobilization state, right, we're fighting or we're flighting, those are like quick fixes, reaction, but they're not suitable for our modern problems. And that's why regulating your nervous system is so important. Below that state of fight or flight, there's even a more like, this is like, whoo, I can't even mobilize. This stressor is so big. I feel there's absolutely nothing I could do except to lay here and just, let it go, let go. Like, this is the end, the ultimate end. And that's like a state of complete shutdown. So where we get into depression and our freeze response. And some of us can get into functional freeze, and some of us bounce between these states, right? Just to get through. We get an adrenaline rush so that we could, okay, just go to work, just get through the day. We come home and we're just like, we're not even really able to engage fully with our kids, with our hobbies, with roommates. It's just like, right, you just kind of dissociate, you stare into space. So some of us, you know what I'm talking about. And there's no shame in any of these states, but how can we get your nervous system to feel safe even in the midst of these modern struggles, right? These things that are just always going to be happening, whether it's financial expense that maybe you didn't see coming. We have to build up the capacity within our nervous system to handle these things, and to not let them defeat us or bring us into a state where we're then in a chronic state of worry or anxiety, because it really is a compounding thing. The longer you stay in any of these states is the more that you're training your nervous system to make this the baseline. And as someone who has struggled with all, both of those, hyperarousal and shutdown, it really is like a habitual state that your nervous system comes into. And so it's like, whenever I face a problem, because I've been in that state for so long, I go to the depressive thought. I go to the anxiety thought. I don't go into, oh wait, I'm supported. I have options. I do know someone who could help with this, or I did connect with that person. Maybe they could help. In a chronic state of worry or anxiety, because it really is a compounding thing. The longer you stay in any of these states is the more that you're training your nervous system to make this the baseline. And as someone who has struggled with all, both of those, hyperarousal and shutdown, it really is like a habitual state that your nervous system comes into. And so it's like, whenever I face a problem, because I've been in that state for so long, I go to the depressive thought. I go to the anxiety thought. I don't go into, oh wait, I'm supported. I have options. I do know someone who could help with this, or I did connect with that person. Maybe they could help, right? We don't get into this state of truly where the answers lie when we've habituated our nervous system to be in the stress response. And so the answer isn't to fight against these responses or shame ourselves. You cannot push and motivate yourself out of shutdown, but you can soften your way up the ladder. You can actually allow your nervous system to replenish itself when you soften. And in that natural softening, you'll feel the energy return. Because it's not that you need to add more gas to the car. It's that you need to remove the friction on the ground, if that makes sense. It's almost like going from a gravel road, it's not like you need to force more gas into the car. You just need to clear away the resistance and you'll naturally glide. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, that's the work we're going to be doing in Soften and Replenish. Again, like I said, we're starting tomorrow. If you do want to join, it is registration is pay what feels good, which is my version of just opening up the space for everyone to choose a price that feels good or the contribution that feels good.